So good afternoon or good morning. I'm Romalie Choco from the Connect and Communicate Series Planning Committee. Thanks for joining the Connect and Communicate series presenting Promoting Inclusion in the Academic Library with the CILLS program internship. This discussion will be recorded and it will be made available to Pennsylvania Library Association College and Research Division members through the PALA website, as well as sent to registrants and available on the CRD blog. For this discussion, you'll only need a headset or speakers. We encourage you to ask questions in the chat box at the bottom right, and we'll attempt to include your questions as it's appropriate during the discussion or at the end. If you have any technical issues, post those in the chat box as well, and we'll do our best to assist you with that. So this session is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Library Association College and Research Division's Connect and Communicate series. I'd like to thank the CRD board for supporting the Connect and Communicate initiative and the other Connect and Communicate planning committee members, including Adam Balchunas, Christy Adelman-Ritter, Diane Porterfield, and Amy Snyder. Please contact any one of the team for information about becoming a PALA member. This project is made possible by a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services as administered by the Pennsylvania Department of Education through the Office of Commonwealth Libraries and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Tom Look, Governor. And finally, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today, Allison Wind. Allison is the Electronic Resources Librarian at East Stroudsburg University, and she will discuss how Kemp Library is promoting inclusion by having a CILLS student participate in a library internship. The Career in Independent Living and Learning Studies program helps young adults with intellectual and other developmental disabilities prepare to lead productive lives in their communities. In 2019 and again in 2021, the library has accepted a CILLS student to intern at the library in order to learn soft skills like communication and problem solving that can be transferred to any job placement in the future. In addition to learning soft skills, the CILLS intern learns valuable library-related skills like alphabetizing and shelving books according to the Dewey Decimal System. And with that, I'd like to welcome Allison and turn the presentation over to her.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that great introduction. So I want to make sure that my speaker is working correctly because I see in the chat that the speaker is kind of going in and out. How is my speaker? Is that going in and out, or is it kind of okay for everybody now? Okay, I'm fine. So it must be yours.
I think it was me then. Sorry.
That's okay. All right, let me close this out. All right, so that was a really great introduction. You saved me pretty much my first slide. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me for just a moment here. Okay, so again, I'm Allison Wind. I'm the Electronic Resources Librarian here at Kemp Library at East Stroudsburg University. And my presentation today is Promoting Inclusion in the Academic Library with a CILLS program internship. So my inspiration for having a student with disabilities come intern at the library is my friend Allison. She is a friend that I've had since we were teenagers, and her soon-to-be 8-year-old son Riley has a rare genetic disorder and multiple disabilities, yet he is fully included in many activities for neurotypical kids in his age group. And his mother, Allison, also works for a supported job training program in Wayne County. So she always encouraged me like, hey, if you have students who might want to intern in the library, I know you have a CILLS program there. It would be a great opportunity for you and a great opportunity for them. Because once they finish with this program here at ESU, they could maybe move on to the supported work training that exists in their home communities or in libraries. So what is the CILLS program at ESU? So the CILLS program at ESU is the Career in Independent Living and Learning Studies program. It helps young adults with intellectual and other developmental disabilities prepare to lead productive lives in their communities. Basically, it's a non-degree 3- or 4-year program. It was originally 3, but I guess because of the pandemic, they're adding on an extra year just in case some of the students might have missed a year going online. And the CILLS students are basically involved in every aspect of campus through this program. So in this presentation, you'll see some photos of them being involved in all sorts of different things. So they're involved in sports, they're involved in auditing academic classes, clubs, student activities, absolutely everything. So it's a really cool program, and there's not a lot of them that are similar to this throughout the country. So I think it's really unique that I get to work with these students here at ESU. And like I said, Allison kind of influenced me to try and partner with the program. And it's been a pretty great success so far. So a little bit of our history with CILLS. The CILLS program coordinator reached out to us several times in the past. I've been here since 2016, and they probably reached out 2 or 3 times in between 2016 and 2019, 2020, and it just wasn't the right time. We were really busy. We had a lot of staff turnover, things like that. COVID happening, we just couldn't do it. And I actually had the date wrong in the description. It was like early 2020 when we had our first student intern from the CILLS program come in, and she had an intellectual disability. Since then, we've had 2 other interns, and they both had Down syndrome. The first student that we had was, she was really very capable, and I actually had her work with one of my work study students to do a little bit of training, and I think that was great for both of them. The 2 that I've worked with since have kind of been working in other departments of the library with me mostly, and a couple of the other library faculty and staff members, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So part of the CILLS program internship is learning soft skills. So some of the soft skills that our interns will learn on the job are emotional intelligence, communication, teamwork, respect, flexibility, creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, leadership, time management, and motivation. Basically, you can teach those in any way you'd like to. And then the internship coordinator comes up with the job description. So for example, I would be the intern coordinator here. I came up with a very basic job description for what they would do in the library, the tasks and departments that they would work with. I had that approved by my dean. And then that was sent back to the CILLS program director, all approved. And then the intern started working. So all of the students that I've had interning so far have expressed interest in working at the library. Some of them had previous experiences at their local or their school libraries, and they were really excited about continuing that experience once they got to college in the program. And I thought it was really important for us to include these students at the library for various reasons. But for a couple of the big reasons is that they don't get a library orientation like the incoming freshmen do. And they're often required to use library resources like online sources or go look for a book or come to the building for a class that they're auditing. And we've been finding that that is kind of a, I don't know, a little bit of a stressful process for some of them. I am teaching right now, well, presenting right now in our computer lab. And I often have a lot of CILLS students who are auditing classes in the education department. So I'm the education liaison. Sometimes they will come up here for a class, and since they've never had the orientation, they don't know where to go on campus. They get lost, and then they come to the building and they're confused of where to go because they've never been down to the computer lab. So having these students interning in the library, they all know each other. It's a small group. So they talk to each other and say, hey, I'm interning in the library. I can show you what you need to know. So that was kind of a really cool thing that happened just at the beginning of the internship with all of our students. They've kind of become like ambassadors for the library amongst each other. So that's been really cool. And one thing I learned while, again, working with my friend Allison and her son, And something I like to keep in mind when I am working with my interns here is that you always need to presume competence. And that means that you believe that everybody has the ability to learn, think, and understand. This is something I've seen a lot of describing, like when you're working with people with autism, but I believe that this kind of goes for any sort of disability or physical, intellectual, whatever you want. You always want to presume that they can understand everything you're saying. They have the ability to learn the tasks that you're training them, and that they can do what you need them to do in a library setting. So kind of going off of that, I like to capitalize a little bit on their strengths when they come in. I have them do a variety of things to try to figure out what library tasks they'd like to do and what they're good at, and kind of start there and then work towards moving to new and other challenging tasks. And this has been really fun because my coworkers in all different departments have come up to me and said, hey, can your intern do this task? Can your intern do that task? So if I somehow run out of things for them to do, I can challenge them with like a new task in whatever department needs their help. And that's been really awesome. So another thing I've been learning too is, depending on the intern, some of them need help building work stamina. Some of them have never worked before. The intern I had before the one I have now had very low stamina. She needed to take breaks often. She could work for about 45 minutes at a time before she got tired or bored. So I tried to work in breaks for her more often so we could get work done, but also not exhaust her. But then after a while, I kind of built up and let her do a little bit more work at a time so she wouldn't be taking so many breaks. And like I said before, I like to give our interns opportunities to work in several different library departments, because you don't know, they might discover a department of the library that they haven't worked in before, but might really be good at. So on this next slide, I have some pictures of my last two interns. I wasn't sure if I was able to take a picture of their faces, which I now know I can't. But on the left-hand side, you'll see a picture of my intern working with our archivist and special collections librarian. And she was working on taking apart a scrapbook that we discovered in our archives. And we were going to use this for like the history of the library, like our on our website. So we were going to scan it in. And our archivist was working with her to show her how to properly take things out of like sleeves that might be acidic, and then put them in the same order into an acid-free folder. And she was doing really great with that. Didn't need a lot of supervision for that one, but that was a really fun project. And then the next picture I have is our Curriculum Materials Center library assistant, Mary, and she's working with our current intern in that picture. And she's been doing a lot of stuff with our intern in the Curriculum Materials Center, including shelving, learning how to shift books, learning how to locate books for students, doing displays. And then Mary also works in our government documents department, and she's been teaching her how to do some weeding projects. So she's doing withdrawal stamps, making sure that all of the documents that she's weeding are in the right order in order to make lists for weeding. We found out that our intern is really good at stamping things. She can just stamp all day long. And then I also have her working with our cataloging assistant, doing, again, stamping of new books, and then also putting barcodes on books, which really helps because we only have one library assistant in the cataloging department. And we have a lot of new books coming in. So we figured that she could help with that task, and she loves that as well. So definitely a good thing to have them work in many, many different departments of the library. And then I added a little bit about training your intern and how it's a little bit different in some ways and a little bit the same as if you had like a neurotypical or a non-disabled student as your intern. I've definitely learned that you have to communicate directly with them. You have to tell them exactly what you need to do and be as direct as possible. And this also includes apologizing. So if you give them a task to do and they do it not the way that you think it was supposed to be done, you kind of have to learn to apologize and say, you know, I'm sorry about that. I gave you the wrong directions. Let's try this again. And that's really been a lesson for me. Also, giving clear directions on what needs to be done for each task. And then if you think you've broken the task down as far as you can, you might have to break it down even further. For example, I have my intern now, as soon as she comes in and puts her stuff away, she goes upstairs and she grabs the book, cart of books to get reshelved in the curriculum materials center. So the one day I asked her, I said, can you take them and put these green flags, which I'll show you in another slide, put these green flags in the book so I know where you shelved them, and then put them on the shelf. And I didn't double check her first, and she didn't put the flags in, she just put the books away. So again, I have to now go back and say, okay, I got to break that one down even further. So go get the books, bring them to me, I'll put the flags in, then you go shelve them. That worked better. And again, be flexible. This is the same with anybody. If something isn't working, change it up. Try to adapt it if you can. Another great thing about this program is that our interns all get a support person if necessary. If it's not already offered, then I ask for one and they can come for a certain length of time. It's usually a couple of weeks. And then as the intern gets a little bit more confident in their tasks, the support person kind of fades out. For my first two interns that I've had, they really didn't need help at all. The support people left fairly quickly. This time, my student definitely needed a little bit more help at first, just because we were down a staff person. I'm sorry, a faculty person due to maternity leave, so I needed a little extra support just in case I had to run away and go do something somewhere else in the library. So those are just a few of the little training tips that I have here. And then here's what I was talking about, the adapting of tasks. So again, with a regular, like a work study student, having them say, okay, go upstairs, get the card, put the flags in it, go put it away. Most of your students would be able to figure that out, but mine couldn't. So I had to break that one down into an even smaller and smaller task. And then I have a picture here of some of the projects that we worked on together. It was really difficult for my first student intern to see where the books were shelved by author in the children's department. So we worked together to make, if you see the little white sticks that are kind of sticking out between the authors, that really helped because then they could see where the letters were on the shelf and go from there. And then if you also see kind of right in the front, there's a book with a green flag in it. And this is how I've been teaching my current intern how to shelve books in the correct order. And this is kind of how I was trained as well. And probably some of you remember this as well, as if you were a work study student or you were learning how to shelve books. I put a colored flag in the book. I had the student go put it away and turn it on its side so I can see where they shelved it. And then we go back and double check their work. And then I show them, you know, if they have it in the wrong spot, why it's in the wrong spot, and then we can correct it that way. The student I had before really struggled, like I said, with alphabetizing. So we had to do the shelf labels. And then we also put a poster of the alphabet next to the cart where she was putting books in order before shelving them. So she was having real trouble with alphabetizing, like telling which number or which letters came before and after. And I actually had to work on a computer game as well. I tried to find some of the ones that I remember from learning shelving when I was a student, but that was so long ago I couldn't find it. But I did find some computer games that were good for like elementary age kids. And I had her work on those and she seemed to like it. But I would definitely recommend asking the student before you put them on a game like that, ask them like, is this okay? Is this too babyish for you? Like, do you not want to do this? Because like I said, I want to presume competence. I don't want to presume that they like to play games like that just because they have a disability. So I'd like to ask, is this okay that you do this? And she was fine with it. And it was actually pretty challenging for her. So definitely need to adapt tasks in order to make sure that you are teaching the same task as you would a regular neurotypical person. They might just need a little bit more help. And then another thing that I've liked to do with my student interns is safety training. I do like general safety training, which I'm sure that on most job sites, once you get there, you'd have the safety training too, but there are a few things that we know of in libraries that need to be specifically addressed. My interns have been very short, statured is shorter than I am. I'm only like 5'1". So I've had to teach them like how to use stools properly to reach high places. I don't want to see them climbing or, struggling to reach things. Taking heavy things off of the shelves, I've made sure that they, ask for help with that. I don't want them getting hurt. Properly loading book carts is a task that I've definitely had to train them how to do, and I've made mistakes myself where I load one side and it all falls on me or on the floor or on my feet. Using the elevator versus the stairs, having to push an entire cart of books into an elevator can sometimes be a challenge for students. So I've had to teach them how to do that. We actually had a fire drill that happened one time last year when I was doing work with my intern. So I had to teach them like the fire drill procedure for the building, wearing the gloves and masks for dust and mold while reading. We're reading a bunch of records right now. So I've had to show her like, okay, masks and gloves for this kind of task. Wearing of closed-toed shoes. So far that hasn't been a problem. That was a problem for me, learning how to work in a library. I dropped a lot of things on my feet before I realized I should probably wear closed-toed shoes if I'm working with books. And then one big thing for all of our interns is taking breaks. Like I said, my intern that I've had before the one now took a lot more breaks than my current intern. And my current intern, she will work and work and work and work until the end of her shift. And I've asked her several times, like, hey, do you want to take a break? Do you want to drink? Do you need to go to the bathroom? And she usually will say no. So I've had to kind of train her and kind of figure out what motivates her to take a break if she needs it. Because sometimes I feel like, depending on the disability, they feel like they have to just keep going, keep working. They're kind of like driven. So I found out that my intern really likes chocolate. So if I say, hey, would you like a chocolate donut after she's been working for an hour, she'll sit for 15 minutes and eat a donut. Or Oreos or whatever we have in our little shared snack thing. That's kind of how I've gotten her to take a break, and it's been kind of funny. But yeah, it all depends on your intern and what motivates them. But something that you might not think of when having an intern with a disability is the safety training. And then there's definitely benefits for all people involved for having an intern from this program working in your library. The intern learns the soft skills like I listed on the first or second slide. And they also learn skills specific to library work, which is something that can transfer to pretty much any library. Like I said, my friend works in supported employment training, and she often has several students working in their community's public library just for a couple of hours a day doing shelving and other work. And if they already have that training from the CILLS program and then they graduate and go on to their communities, that puts them at an advantage over other people who might not have had that training already. Another benefit is that the students from the CILLS program learn how to navigate the academic library. Doing this is difficult even for neurotypical people, and I really think that in the past, we've been lacking here at our university to get these students included in more activities in the library. So having 1 or 2 interns, as I said before, they've kind of turned into ambassadors. They tell each other about the library. They tell how awesome it is to come here and how much fun it is to work here. Then they will show each other, you know, here's the computer lab that you need to go to for this class. They show each other how to check books in and out, how to use the computers. So that's been a really cool benefit for them. I already said that this internship also prepares them for future job training. They might have job training programs in their communities, and they could already list all the places they've interned on campus, and then decide from there where they might want to focus more of their specific job training. I said before too that this internship helps them build stamina. My friend, again, I've talked about Allison a lot. She was saying, you know, if you work with students with Down syndrome, some of them have a very low stamina. They don't work for very long before getting frustrated or tired. And at least that was the case with my first intern with Down syndrome, but not the second one. So again, you can't make assumptions for everybody. It just depends on who you're working with. So doing the internship can help maybe a student with a little less work stamina gain more. That could be a goal for the internship is work for an hour instead of 45 minutes before taking a break. And it also helps them build confidence. A lot of times my intern would say like, oh, I'm having a really hard time shelving these books. I don't know why I can't get this. And I'm like, well, you've only been here for a month or two. Like, there's no way you could be perfect at this in a month or two. So I had to reassure her, like, you know, you're doing really well. You're learning. You're going to build your confidence. Everything is going to be okay. And then another thing to learn for them is routine and scheduling. So I didn't really come up with a schedule for the intern I have now. I did before for the other one, just because she didn't really, she wasn't really like self-motivated to do things, but the intern I have now has got a routine down pretty much. So she comes in, puts her stuff away, goes gets books to put away in the curriculum materials center. And that's kind of the beginning of her routine so far. So we're still working on that, but she's kind of like self-directing her own routine, which is great. I really like how having the students from this program in the library working kind of helps build a camaraderie and belonging for that group of students. It's been really great to have my student working with me and have another work study student go, oh, hey, you know, how are you doing? And then I find out they're both in the same class. So I think it's really cool that they can feel like they're part of, like truly part of the campus that way. Then they recognize people out of the other places on campus. And then finally, they learn self-advocacy, which I think is really important for people with any kind of disability or even neurotypical people as well. Being able to advocate for themselves and say, hey, this is the kind of job I like, this is the kind of job I want. These are the things I want to learn here. Anything that helps them, I want them to be able to verbalize it. So those are some of the benefits for the CILLS intern. I'm sure there's a lot more. That's all I could come up with. And then there are also benefits for your faculty, staff, and like I said, other students who encounter them in the library. So I think having students from the CILLS program in the library working is really a concrete example of our university's commitment to diversity and inclusion. There's been so much on campus already about ethnic, racial diversity, but not a ton on intellectual and physical disabilities. So I decided that was going to be kind of our thing at the library. I want people coming in, I want students, faculty, staff coming in, seeing CILLS students here working and being fully included in all of our activities. I also think it's a really great opportunity for everybody in the library to work on their leadership and training skills. I'm still learning on all of those things. When I was in college, I was a work study student at my college library, and I ended up training all of my new work study student coworkers after like my sophomore year. And I kind of knew how I would train them, but it's been a little bit of a challenge, but also fun to learn how to train different types of people to do library work. So that's really helped me. And same with the leadership, like these students see you as a leader on campus and they look up to you. So being able to be a leader in making sure that the rest of our community at the library knows that these people are welcome and valued at the library is really great. Honing your interpersonal skills. This is a huge thing for me, and I'm sure the rest of my faculty and students in the building and the staff. Learning to communicate with all different types of people. The last couple of years at the library, we really haven't seen too many members of the community, members of the public, but it's always important to be able to communicate clearly, directly, nicely to all types of people who come in the building, including our CILLS students. So learning those interpersonal skills is a benefit for having these students intern at the library. Then it also helps all of us challenge our biases about disability. Having students in the library with varying types of disabilities kind of shows us that some of the things we might be biased about are wrong. So again, that's something I'm working on too, is working with these interns has really helped me learn so much about the benefits of including everybody in the library. And then this is a picture of me when I was an intern, a student worker at my library. I think this is the only picture I have of myself shelving books. And I think this was probably my freshman or sophomore year of college. I'm not really sure based on the bandana and the necklace. It's like 2003-ish, I think. So one important thing I've learned by including the CILLS students in our library and having them intern is that I'm kind of remembering where I came from. Like at some point, I was learning all of the same tasks as these students were in the library. As I said before, they're going to be feeling a lot of the same feelings of frustration when learning a new or challenging task, like shelving books. I remember when I learned to shelve books, we all had colored flags too, but it was not a pleasant experience. So I've tried to make it a more pleasant experience for my students. Try to teach them shelving in a more, I'm trying to think of the right word, a less threatening way than what I had. And you just have to reassure them that their feelings are totally normal. Like you can't learn all of this in a few days or even a semester or even a 1-year internship. It can take years. I shelved books, I told them, for 4 years, and I'm still learning. Sometimes I still make mistakes. And I think it's really important to kind of be humble and remember that, you know, even you were learning these things at one point and it was frustrating. So be free to share those with your student. And I think that makes them feel a lot better about learning the tasks that you're trying to teach them. And then I like to end with this quote that says, everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't. And this is from Bill Nye, the most awesome scientist ever. And this is a picture of one of our library interns, Nicole. And I really like this quote because working with people with disabilities in the library has really solidified this quote for me. All of these students have had something valuable to share with the library as a whole. And then bringing that out to the library community as a whole and the university as a whole. I've learned so many things from these students that I didn't know, and I learned something new every day from them. So I always like to like to use this quote when talking about including people with disabilities in the library. I think this is my last slide. Yes, it is. So if you have any questions or comments, we have plenty of time. I talked a little bit fast, but we have plenty of time if anybody would like to give me any questions, or if you have any comments, or I can revisit a slide if you would like to. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can do that. And I'm going to look at the chat. Okay, I see somebody said, do you do any special training or reading to learn about working with and teaching the interns? If not, would that be helpful? I really kind of relied on talking with the the CILLS coordinator at first, because they would usually give me a little bit of background about the student and what they were capable of or not capable of, and then kind of going from there. I didn't read anything specific about it, but I really should have put this in here. I have one article that my coworker sent me about a study that was done, I think in Ireland. I'll find it and I'll put it in here if I can find it, about how students with disabilities came to the library and what scared them and what helped them. And that kind of helped as well, to kind of guide how I was going to teach them. And then mostly I went back on what I was learning when I was a freshman, learning how to work in the library, how to shelve and things like that. I kind of just drew on my own thing. I hope that was a good answer. It's still kind of new, so I would, if you are working with a student, I would probably start with the who knows them best. So if they have like a teacher or a program coordinator who knows them best, meet with them first, find out what they are interested in doing, what they can and can't do, and then go from there. Can you estimate the yearly time commitment having interns would require? It depends. This semester has been pretty easy because we're back to like a full staff. Last semester was really hard because we had a faculty person out on maternity leave. So we had to, I always had to like run away and do something else. So I was really thankful I had a support person to work there. Yearly time commitment. Oh man, that's an interesting question. I mean, if you go by semesters, we don't do it in the summer. And this particular intern comes in twice a week for 3 hours. So it's like 6 hours a week. Does that answer your question? And it might be a little bit longer or shorter depending on how much the person wants to work or has to work, depending on what the internship requires. And there's usually always a support person who comes with them. So if you need to go do something else, the support person will be there until you feel like the student can work on their own. Oh, okay, so yes, 6 hours of actual time with the intern, but how long preparing for their project, making reports, etc. I'm trying to even answer that question. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't say it's too much longer, especially with this program. The students are pretty high functioning. So I don't have to prepare too much time for them, but I would say it's probably like maybe an extra 6 or 8 hours a week. But a lot of it is stuff that I'm already working on. So I just kind of include them in those projects that I'm working on. Like if I have a project that I wanted to work on, but I didn't have time to do it by myself, like for example, a weeding project, I might prepare for a couple of hours another time during the week to get them ready. So it might be an extra 6 to 8 hours. It can be a little time consuming, but I think it's fun and totally worth it. But if you have another, like maybe a lower functioning student, you might have more preparation time. So you might want to work ahead of time to have projects ready for them that they can work on. So then it's not taking up so much of your time during the week. Especially like if you have the summer that you could prepare, that would be a really great time to do that. Any other questions?
Thanks. If anybody has any other questions, please put them in the chat. I have one question, Allison, before we, I'm wondering how the interns interact with the student workers. You talked about that a little bit, but is there formal training together or working together or anything like that?
Since it's fairly new, I haven't done any like formal training too much. I did have my own student worker at the beginning, like before the pandemic. So I had those two work together on task because she was pretty high functioning too. So I said, okay, student worker, you have this task. I'll train you how to do that. And then she can work with you, work together to complete the task. But no, I haven't really done any joint training officially. I might in the future, but right now, no.
All right, I hope my sound is better than it was before. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. And Allison, thank you for presenting for us. I hope everyone will take a few minutes to complete our survey. A link will be placed in the chat. And it's important that you please take time to submit your responses as we're required to submit evaluation data as part of our LSTA grant application. So the responses are much appreciated. So thank you, Allison, and everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.